So I was having a conversation with someone, and what they told me was that when they first got into a relationship, they set the rule with their partner that they would never go on a break. Because if they went on a break, they weren't fully in on the relationship.
Right.
They were half-assing it.
Right.
And I thought about that, and I was like, wow, yes. And
it's a brilliant
it makes such a good point, because it's like,
it's a brilliant rule.
To me, going on a break is like a maybe, right? And of course, I take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, right? I'm observing secondhand, right? Because I've never been in a long-term relationship before. Yeah. But to me, it's like when you're not all in, when you don't sign, and this is how I described it to them, when you don't sign that when you sign that dotted line and you make that serious commitment, you're not going to break up unless it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize when it comes to a lot of things. Are you doing what you're doing because 100%. It's actually necessary? Or are you just doing it because, and this is a good point that they brought up, people just, especially with modern dating or modern culture, when it comes to relationships, they get in an argument and a normal thing is like, we're breaking up, when they don't actually try and move through the issue and work it out because they've signed that dotted line and they say they want to be together when that's clearly not 100%. The case.
Well, that's why marriage is so powerful. Yeah. Because people always say I oftentimes hear the perspective of, oh, what's the point of getting married? It's just a piece of paper. And to me, it's like it's so muddle-headed to look at marriage as it's just for legal reasons and for banking reasons. To think that there's nothing psychologically deeply involved with you getting up in front of a big crowd of people and saying, I choose this person and nobody else. And for you to sit there and think that has no psychological deep engraving on your brain is just ridiculous. Like, the reason why it's so powerful is because you're forced to make it work. You're forced to make it work. If you have a shitty argument, it's not like you can just walk away and be like, fuck this person. Because you chose this person, you read your vows to this person. We're not leaving. We're getting buried next to one another. So we have to make this work. There is no, I'm going to run away because things are scary, or I'm going to fucking leave you on red, because you're going to end up sleeping next to them that night, whether you like it or not. Because everything that you do is now one. And so for you to sit there and think that in order for you to have a successful relationship, you can just be half-baked, you're in for a rude awakening. And the reason why I say that is because I lived half-baked. I lived in the area of, I'm going to kind of invest, but I'm too afraid of being open and being vulnerable. So I'm just going to kind of sit in this half-baked cake zone and not fully invest myself into a relationship. And it leads to nothing but misery. I promise you it leads to nothing but misery. The shitty part is that you're fucked either way. Because if you invest, then you're vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable, you're opening yourself up to attack. You can get deeply hurt by somebody when you're open and vulnerable. But the only alternative is to not open up and never experience real, deep, meaningful, loving relationships. You have to pick one. The problem is people assume that because it's what they've always done, that it equates to zero. It's like, no. You might just be numb to the pain. You might just be numb to the fact that you've never had someone to open up to since you were 6 years old because something traumatizing happened with your family. And I completely have empathy for that. But again, it's a choice of, do I have the courage to open up to somebody and allow them to open up to me? And it all comes down to committing yourself and allowing the truth to be the thing that comes to the surface. And that's why marriage is so powerful. That's why when you go on a break, it's so much more than just a break. Because taking a break from someone is saying that when things get hard, I can just leave, not talk to you, let things figure themselves out if they will, not take any accountability for the shit that's been going on.
It's called a break for a reason.
Exactly. You get a break you get a break from that person, but you get a break from the accountability. Exactly. You get a break from having to be disciplined with your love. You know what I mean? Like, if you go on a break and you go around and sleep with 6 other people, like, what does that say about you? You know what I mean? And again, I'm not speaking from my high fucking horse. You know that damn well. I know that damn well. Rachel knows that damn well.
Oh,
The only reason why I say these things is because I've literally
you don't want people to make the same
done
mistakes.
every stupid fucking thing I'm talking about in this situation. I've done everything to an extreme. I've hurt my feelings deeply, and I've hurt other people's feelings very deeply because of my own shitty, stupid, fucked up inadequacies. And I had to learn the hard way. And I'm good now until something else comes up. But
yeah, no. But I think it'll be a lot better for you to handle.
100%.
Yeah.
Long story short, correct. Going on breaks is the dumbest thing for your relationship because it is allowing you to run away from problems instead of solve them with that person. And truly committing to someone means that there are no breaks. It means that we're going to figure this shit out no matter how hard it gets. That's why reading your vows and getting married is so powerful.
Yeah, no, I mean 100%, because I think you can definitely, if you need to part ways temporarily,
Right.
Not saying go on a break, like if we get heated, right, and we need to take
That's it.
a week from each other, right, that's different, right?
Right.
But like we're not saying we're going on a break, because obviously, like I think at least in my mind, what a formal break to me means is like, okay, we're gonna put this, like we mutually agree in a moment, whether it be over text or just over communication, to put the relationship on a pause.
Right.
But the relationship is never on a pause, because you don't, when it comes to anything, when it comes to working out, when it comes to business, when it comes to health, all these things, you don't just get healthy. You don't just win at business, right? Or marriage or anything like that. I'm not fucking married, but like I'm relating to other areas, is you stay in those things. It's a maintenance thing every single day. You know, if you stop going to the gym, your body's going to reflect that.
Right.
If you continually go to the gym, hit the necessary workout that you need to every single week, then your body's going to reflect that. Of
course.
And obviously there's multiple factors there in addition to nutrition, right? But this is all the maintenance thing. So when it comes to friendships, when it comes to relationships, right? Like if you don't continually talk to a friend, or because you can still be cool with someone, right? But if you're cool with someone, you don't have any, obviously there's no issues there. The next time you, let's just say we continually talk and we regularly interact,
Right.
we're going to just naturally get closer and develop a stronger bond. But if we stop talking, if we stop interacting, that's going to force us to just by nature to distance ourselves from each other. And when the next time we talk to each other, there's not going to be as strong as a bond, right? And so when it comes to specifically, like I'm just relating it back to this, what we're talking about now, it's like when you are taking a break, right? You're almost lying to yourself. You're almost
100%.
using an invalid excuse for something that doesn't need to,
100%.
that you're not facing the truth with. And it's like when you throw up that blockade, when you throw up all these, okay, just make sure. When you throw up these things, you're just making it worse for yourself. And it's just really difficult because, like you said, I think having vows, making a commitment to someone, whether just even, I mean, I love how your take on relationships, because it's like, when you meet a girl and you think she's, potential, you have to go through this intense analytical evaluation of who she is,
Right.
or who he is,
Right.
or who they are. When you intensely kind of analyze when you get in a relationship with someone, especially with the the whole list method of the qualities that you find, the non-negotiables, right? It's like, I feel like when you do that, when you set that standard, especially when you go through that process, and marriage is a whole nother thing, but like just kind of take this as like a mini marriage, if you want. Doing that process is, I feel like for people that do that process, is this bothering you?
No.
Okay. Is this bothering you?
I even don't like the wording mini marriage though.
Okay.
Like I think it's all marriage.
Okay. Well, okay. Don't read into that too much. I was just thinking you're right. It's like, it's based on the idea that this is the girl that I want to spend the rest of my life with, or this is the man that I want to spend the rest of my life with. I get you don't like that whole idea, but just looking at it from like, when you go through that process, essentially, I feel like the more people that go through that process and really set down the ground rules for the relationship and just analyze a person, and if they're worthy enough or deserve to be in a relationship with them, they won't even go on a break with their partner because they are so mature and wise about who they get into a relationship with, case dependent, of course, but they will be able to recognize, just like the person that I was talking to, that going on a break is not the right answer.
Of course. Well, never it is. So, is running away a good idea?
But do you feel like that? You feel like kind of going through that preparation?
Like, what do you mean by preparation?
Like, do you feel like the more people that go through that process of like having the list, do you think they're more likely to go on a break with someone or less likely to go on a break with someone? Or do you feel like, in general, that kind of preparation?
I feel like it wouldn't be correlated.
No.
I feel like it...
Based on the individual. Like, if an individual, like yourself, if you were able...
I feel like it just depends. The list is just a list of things that you value that are non-negotiables for you.
Yeah, but it's that process that you go through. It's more so, I'm referring to the internal character at hand. The individual that's doing this, not just the process, right? Maybe I phrased that wrong. It's the person that's going into that relationship.
Okay, so the type of person that would make a list
the type of
is also likely the type of person to not go on breaks, because the type of person who would make a list prior to getting into a relationship to avoid potential red flags in the honeymoon phase is also probably the type of person that says, when I commit, I commit.
Yep.
The type of person who chooses not to willfully be blind to things that are actually going to tear them apart are usually the same type of people who are going to say, I'm ready to love, and it's going to be amazing because I'm willing to be open and vulnerable, and I know that there's a good chance I'm going to get hurt, certainly going to get hurt in some ways, but I'm willing to take the risk because I know that I'm ready to commit, and I know I'm strong enough to be okay alone, to the point where if something bad were to happen, if somebody I fell in love with betrays me, cheats on me, makes my life a living hell, I'll be okay alone because I've done the necessary preparation to love me first. So when I get into a relationship with somebody else that's going to love me and potentially hurt me, if shit heads south, if they die, if something fucked up happens, I'll be okay. It's not going to be easy, of course, but it's worth it to me because I'll be okay. And that's why things get so fractious when people go on breaks, because the only reason why they can't actually step away from people sometimes is because if they stepped away, they'd have nothing left because they don't love who they are. And so if you leave this other person who you have your whole identity wrapped up in, you're gone. You just committed suicide. Emotionally, that's how it feels for some people because your whole identity is wrapped up in that. It's the same concept of the devouring mother. The classic example of it is a helicopter mom that solves all of her kids' problems. Their son or daughter gets in an argument at school. They don't let their son or daughter figure it out with that classmate. They go and talk to their parents and resolve the issue for them. What it does is it disables your children because when they go into high school and college, they start to realize that mom's not going to defend me now. And they're useless in social interactions because they've never had to fend for themselves. And so when push comes to shove and someone insults them or they run into problems socially, they have no idea on how to defend themselves and how to figure shit out because mommy has always done it for you. But the reason mommy always did it for you is because she wasn't living her own life. She was living vicariously through you. And so her being the devouring mother means when you go off, she dies too, and now you're on the battlefield without a sword. And so if you enter a relationship where you don't love yourself, that's exactly what you're doing. Because you've never been in a... Because when you get into that relationship, there's no chance in hell. Like, if you don't love yourself, and then you decide to let somebody else love you, A, you're never going to open up to them because if you don't love yourself, you're never going to reveal the reality of who you are. But B, if something bad were to happen, if they were to cheat on you or leave you or whatever, you'd be fucked because the second somebody who doesn't love themselves gets into a relationship with somebody who loves them, they wrap their whole identity into that person, into that relationship. And anything could happen. You might get fucked over and it might be malevolent. It might be malevolent. But if you decide that you're going to start to work on you and make your own life better.
I don't know why that made me laugh.
What made you laugh?
It was like the malevolent.
Yeah.
Sorry,
be malevolent.
Be malevolent. Sorry, did not mean to.
You ruin everything.
Sorry.
No, but if you don't love yourself, as simple as this, if you don't love yourself and you get into a relationship with somebody, you're fucked. Because you're going to wrap your identity up into the relationship and... Your poker face is bad. You're like, I'm not gonna laugh.
Biting my tongue. I'm really trying.
Like, you can get hurt by malevolent people in relationships, but it's gonna be a living hell for you if you don't love yourself beforehand. Because if you don't love yourself and you get into a relationship with somebody, there's no way you're going to avoid the trap of getting your whole identity wrapped up into that relationship. Because if you do not love you, you're going to find some external source to get that love. And that's dangerous as fuck. It's not that you shouldn't be open and vulnerable. It's that you need to love you. Because if you don't, like, think about it this way. If you don't treat yourself kindly, how are you going to know to dictate somebody else's behavior when they're not treating you kindly? If you don't even treat yourself that way. If you don't love you, no one else can. Why is it so cliche? It's because it's so true. But why is it so true? The reason it's so true is because when you don't love you, no one else has an example on that's how they deserve to be treated because they treat themselves that way. Everyone deserves to be treated well, 100%. But if you don't even treat yourself well, there's no way you're going to get into a relationship with somebody that's going to know how to treat you well. You haven't handled yourself. And when you don't handle yourself well, your standards are low for you. Your standards for somebody you're going to be a partner with are obviously going to be so low.
Yeah.
It's like, that's why you always see like the law of attraction actually being manifested, is because your standards for who you are mimic the exact standards you're going to have for somebody else. I'm never going to get into a relationship with somebody that doesn't work out and take care of their health physically. Why not? Because A, I don't want to be with somebody who doesn't respect themselves in that way. But B, I have the right to say that because I take care of myself that way. Not that I'm Mr. fucking Olympia, but I take care of my health. And I will not settle for somebody else who doesn't have that same standard for themselves. But you will not be able to actually, emotionally, really, truly have that standard for you, have that standard for your partner, if you don't have that standard for you first. And yeah, just standards, essentially. It's like really what it boils down to.
Yeah. Well, I think it's... Yeah, I think, when it comes to specifically, I think what really stuck with me when you said that, it's like going out on the battlefield without a sword, right. Especially in a circumstance where I don't know what I was thinking about the other day, but I think it was about how, I could be wrong, but it's like when you go through the self-improvement process, but then you get into a relationship, as opposed to being in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the difference between doing self-improvement, then getting into a relationship, versus being in a relationship and then going through self-improvement. Yeah. And I think the difference that I was thinking about
Are you saying intimate relationship or like friendship?
No, intimate, like boyfriend, girlfriend. And so, because in my mind, at least how I thought about it, I feel like, depending on who it is, I feel like it could either be, if you're in a relationship, it could either be a lot harder, and this could go both ways depending on the partner. Okay. Depending on the partner, it can help either accelerate that process or drag you down. Because if you're trying to get better, and like you said before, if you have a partner that's like, oh, let's go to the gym. Like one of my friends, he was telling me how, like when he wants to go work out, right? But then that temptation from his girlfriend of like, nah, I'm just gonna kind of chill here. Like, so unless they have mutual interests, it's gonna be a hell of a lot harder for them to change their lives. But if they mutually agree on something and they go down that path, it's like I said before, it's gonna be easier if you're quote unquote single in a relationship, as opposed to when you're in a relationship and you have that kind of commitment. And I know, like, that's the process of, like, you don't actually deserve this person that's getting, there's a difference there.
Right.
But I think another thing that I wanted to relate this to.
Real quick, though.
Yeah, you're good.
If you're in a relationship with somebody that says, you don't need to go to the gym, let's just hang out and chill. Like, you could skip today. It's fine. You need to get the fuck out of that relationship, because you are not dating somebody who gives a fuck about you. If you're trying to do something good for yourself and your partner says, stop, you don't need to work out, you can just take a skip day. You're fine. Just have the brownie. I know you're trying to get in better shape and lose weight, but just eat it. Who cares? It's okay.
What if your parents say that?
It's the same thing. Step the fuck away. Whoever says that shit to you does not want what's best for you. And you cannot be, in any relationship, intimate or not, surrounding yourself with people who are going to say, take the day off. You don't need to work. You've worked so hard. You lost 5 pounds last month. It's okay. You'll be okay. Those, oh my God, like, ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. Continue.
No, you're right. Like, no, that's just bad. Just bad. You know, and I feel like, I feel as though in my own life, I can sometimes be a victim of just reaffirming people's beliefs. And I think, because I'm not going to be the person that, depends on the relationship, of course, but to be the person that tells them they should go to the gym. Because to me, it's unless I'm kind of, I forget, I don't know. It's hard for me to think of an example, like a concrete example that's happened to me before, but like, we'll just use the hypothetical. For instance, if someone's like justifying, like sometimes I'll get uncomfortable talking about the gym around people because I know it makes them feel bad. And it just kind of degrades their self-worth. So like, I will definitely back off when it comes to talking about the gym, and like, I just feel comfortable because I know how it makes them appear, and I don't want anybody to feel bad.
Yeah.
Even though
there's also a time and place, you know.
That's what I'm saying. They might need to feel that kind of push,
right? Because
that dissonance is going to be what pushes them to get in the gym. That's what it's going to. And I really like this too, and I think it was an interesting take by Chris Williamson. He said, you know, he's like, I'm so sick and tired of people that have gone through the process of self-improvement and are expressing like a work-life balance, and how people don't understand that what you need to put yourself on that path is that kind of sense of insecurity, is that sense of, I guess you could say, dissonance, right? It's those kind of resentment, fear, qualities, and that are what push you, or like the fear of insufficiency, right? The fear of not inadequacy, right? That's what pushes you to get on that path towards self-improvement. But he says, once you get to that point, now you are able to develop that work-life balance, right? And you don't need to operate from a place of insecurity because you've developed those areas. And obviously, he says, you know, it's like, that's great. That's your area of motivation. And it should be. But for people that are first getting into it, understand that they don't have that. And that's not going to motivate them to get into the gym. That's not an incentivizer to get into the gym. And so, kind of just relating it back to what we were talking about, I think specifically when it comes to these kind of conversations, like you said, there's a time and place for these things, but it's very hard for people like myself to say it to certain kinds of people. And even though, you know, it might motivate them to get into the gym and to kind of get on that path of self-improvement, they might not do that at the end of the day. Because I can't tell you the amount of times I've heard people that have said, oh, I'm just so busy, I have no time. What's that thing right there?
Right.
Let's pull that out. Right.
Look at your screen
Look at
time.
your screen time. Boom. That's a concrete example of how 30 minutes. All right, what were you doing then? And it's also the
You're
intention.
not working as much as Elon Musk. You're fucking lying. If you're going to sit there and tell me you don't have time to work out, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to me. It's hilarious when people say anything like that to me because I don't give a fuck what they think the second they give me a bullshit excuse. I'm not going to go around voicing my opinion of, you need to work out, you're overweight, you should do this. I'm not casting pearls before swine. But if we're going to get into the conversation by happenstance and you're going to tell me you can't work out because you don't have the time, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to look at you and I'm going to look at you until you look at me back and say, okay, you're right, I have time. Because if we look at any aspect of your life, we will find out fucking quickly that you do not work like Elon Musk works. You do not. I don't care what you do. You don't. You really don't.
Why do you think that's like a general mindset?
if it's a general excuse and it's accepted by the average person, then it's really easy to use because everybody
It's normalized.
says it. So easy to say that. Like, no one has time. It's a scarce resource. Certainly. It's going to be a lot more scarce if you don't work out. Either way.
Yeah, it's like almost a contradiction when they say that.
Of course.
I don't have any time. But also.
Right.
If you do this, you'll make more. It's like, it's kind of ironic. You know?
I don't have the time for a heart surgery, guys. Okay?
Yes.
I'm too busy.
Exactly. Too busy. It's kind of what you're.
That's exactly what you're saying.
Exactly.
It's just
Something
more obvious when your life will end more
it's a great
abruptly.
Example. Very great example.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what happened today? We can't talk about what happened today, but big things are happening. Things are happening. No, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Things are happening.
The ball is finally
What
starting to
takeaways
roll.
are you getting from what's happening?
The main takeaway is patience and persistence. That's it. Because we need to just do more of what we're already doing and wait. Try to do it better, of course. Try to do them both. But just keep doing it. Keep showing up. How did we land the gig with Central? We kept showing up until they asked us.
Yep.
We just kept showing up. We got lucky. Well, they had this and X and Y and Z fell into place perfectly. It's just going to magically happen over and over again when our services are needed. People will get resourceful, especially when their budget's bigger, if we do such a good job where you say, I need that thing. Think about like a fucking, like a really cool Gucci handbag. They've marketed themselves so well into poor communities to where people are willing to put themselves into debt to get the Gucci bag, to get the Air Jordans.
Because what does it mean?
Because of what it means to them, because of how valuable it is to them.
Yep.
And if you can become so valuable that people are willing to swipe their credit card until they have $0 left in the bank, then you're going to be at the point where you're killing in business because they need your product. They need your service. And I feel like if we just stay
all about perception.
Exactly. If we keep being persistent and just trying.
Yes.
That's it. And so, yeah, it's also the patience to continue to do stuff for free.
Yeah.
Because it's like, as much as I want to make money more than anybody else. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Not more than, you know what I mean? I really want
the things that I can do.
Right. I want to fucking make a profit, like really fucking bad. But I really think the best way to do that long term is to do shit for free as much as possible.
And it's not to say like we're not going to get any paid gigs in the meantime, because I mean we've I mean like just like you said in the car, like people are willing to work for us. You know what I mean? And it's like I think I really like the example that Alex Hormozy uses and how he says like, okay, if someone says like, oh, your business is shit. Oh, maybe that's true. Yeah. He's like, let's see how the business is performing, right? According to them. Right. And it's like, we definitely have developed something legitimate, right? And people are starting to look at that look at that and see the value in it. See that it can get them further along. And so I've talked about this a while ago. When you start to get a lot of questions without you bringing it up about something that you do, that's when you know there's something there. There's some kind of trait, skill, something about you, value that people see and they're like, wow. Yeah. And so they come to you as a resource to get answers. And so I've where's that mouse? No, you're good.
People use you as a resource.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about like where I wanted to bring that. But yeah, like I was saying before, they use you as a resource. They see you as a legitimate resource that can help them get further along their path. Right. And I'm not saying this to like flex. I'm not saying this to do anything. But there's no coincidence that when I have an issue with relationships, or when a lot of people have issue with relationships, they go to you, right? And when people have videography questions, I get a lot of questions like that, right? And it's not like to say I'm fucking the best filmmaker. There is so many things I do not know. And oftentimes when you ask me a question,
I'm gonna be like, I know,
dude. I know. You know me, cameras. Like,
you know me.
Listen.
I have an R6.
No, I've just developed a system that works really well for me, and if you want me to teach you that system, I can do it. But like, it's really basic, and you just it's like 3 things that I do, and it's over and over and over and over again. But it works. So
stabilize, speed ramp. Stabilize, speed
ramp. Keyframing. Thank you. That's it.
They definitely do.
But anyways, like I was saying, right? Like they see the value in that, and I think especially from our business, it shows a lot about where we've come since last January because it's. I think I was looking on the Outlook when you uploaded like one of the highlight videos a while ago onto the OneDrive, and that video was 10 months ago, which is crazy to think about. That was February this year, the video that I clicked on, and I know we started in January, which is nuts. It hasn't even been a year yet, and we've made considerable progress. We're not by any means.
It feels like we didn't do anything.
Exactly, and we really only started how long ago? Like doing free gigs,
like really started
doing multiple a week with different schools, and that's not even including gigs that we're gonna do and like our future projects coming up. Especially because you know I think it, like you said, it's that long term because and willing to sacrifice so much to get there. I mean, like you, dude. You're not. You
are making $0.
Like, homies literally hasn't even worked a calculated hour within a business since he graduated.
Yep.
You haven't worked under any employer since.
Yep.
You haven't made a dime.
Zero.
Since.
Zero.
You've lost so much.
Yep.
Monetarily.
Right.
But, because, dude, like, you've completely transformed my mindset when it comes to this. It's like, oh, dude, just get the job at Central here, get the internship, right? And I don't know if you want to keep that in or out. Okay, just get the internship because it'll help. But you do what I'm doing right now, right? You'll work at the university, you'll get all these benefits, right? And we'll be able to part-time it. But, dude, like, if we were both part-timing it,
it'd be over.
30% of where we are now, if that. We'd be like, oh, we're making progress. Like, we're getting a gig with an athlete. And I don't know, something super small, like not to this scale. So it's like having the ability and the privilege to be in full time has been able to accelerate us a lot. And so you keep this in, like, I'm probably gonna be able to leave my job, you know, at whenever that is. It's just, and I forget who else this, I was telling Dalton this. This is the last thing. My job currently is the last thing standing in my way before I could do what I love.
Yep.
It was school, and now it's this job. After that,
it's over.
It's the only thing left.
That's it.
And for people to say that, I would always look at these YouTubers early on. FaZe Clan, they got the FaZe house, right? These guys are moving into a house gaming when they're 18, doing what they love all day long with their boys, building a brand.
Yeah.
I used to look at those guys and I was like, damn, I wish I could do that.
Right.
And I'm about to do that. It's crazy. It's I'm not saying that to flex. I say that with the most pure intentions, but I'm just saying, like, it can happen. If you like, as much as cliche as it sounds, if you have the resources, if you have the opportunities, and you put yourself in the spot to get those opportunities, you can fucking do it.
You could fucking get resourceful. There's a reason why heroin addicts always get the heroin. They don't have a fucking house or a bank account. Somehow they get the heroin. Because when you really want something, when you really need something, you will get fucking resourceful. Yes. You'll find a way to make it work. You always will. You're a human being. Yep. You're smart. You will figure it the fuck out if you really fucking want it. And that's the part that really always resonates with me hard. Is like, people, like what you just said, I'm like, yeah, that's right. I haven't made a fucking penny in like 6 months.
Crazy, bro. Longer.
People aren't willing to eat shit like that. And I'm not saying that I'm better. I'm saying you're not willing to do the things I'm doing right now. So don't expect to get the results I'm going to have later. That's it. Period.